You're listening to SM Media, the number one place for exclusive Scottish football content.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Transfer Show, your summer transfer show right here on the channel. It is a pleasure to be your host as always. My name's Scott McPike, and it's a pleasure to welcome, coming back to making his debut appearance on the transfer show, but a very well-known face in SM Media. Well, it's a pleasure to welcome on the one and only Lewis Anderson.
Thanks very much, Scott. The wonderful world of Scottish football. Just when you think one season's over, we're already looking forward to the next. It's such a short turnover nowadays.
Aye, short turnover, very busy summer. I've spoke about this the last time we were on. I love it being not raining, but this is the type of weather where the hay fever season kicks in, and I cannot deal with it, as you can see.
I'm a bit of a sun worshipper myself, I must say. I've not had a chance to get away on holiday yet, but this will do perfectly.
Yeah, enjoying it. I just wish the pollen count wasn't as high, but we digress. We will obviously get into a lot of transfer talk. There's been a bit of a change in the kind of landscape of the managerial situation at one particular club. Obviously, we spoke about it in the first show. Ange Postecoglou has left Celtic to go to Tottenham. All reports from Monday onwards seem to be leaning towards a fairy tale return for Brendan Rodgers to Celtic. Lewis, it looks very likely that this is the road Celtic are going down. I am very surprised it is this route. For two reasons, I thought Celtic maybe couldn't get Brendan Rodgers to come back. Obviously, after his time at Leicester, I thought the fans would maybe be as difficult towards it as not as appeared to be. But again, we'll get into that in a minute. But it seems to be Brendan Rodgers as the man to return.
Yeah, a rather interesting one. Obviously, he'll have a lot of making up to do with the fans in particular. He wouldn't have been my first choice candidate either out of the list of possible contenders they had. But now seems like he's the main man. If I was on the Celtic board, I would have looked abroad. My kind of idea would have been the Kjetil Knutsen type route. I think he's just got that type of pedigree up and coming. Seems to have done incredibly well with Bodo Glimt. Obviously, everyone knows about their European exploits, and he's worked there on a limited budget. And I kind of think he's tailor-made for a step up to that next level. And I kind of thought that the Celtic job might have been that, but no, it certainly seems like Rodgers' announcement is kind of expected fairly soon. He's clearly Dermot Desmond's favourite to land the position. That's pretty clear. And it seems like he's already kind of in the process of sorting out his backroom staff as well. So looks like that should be done before the weekend.
The kind of interesting point you brought up there was Dermot Desmond. I think this is the reason that this is kind of gathered pace. I think Dermot Desmond is, as he tends to do, if he wants a manager, he tends to pull out all the stops to get him. That's why Rodgers came the first time. It makes a lot of sense. I know you've obviously got the thing of Rodgers leaving kind of the way he did the first time. It didn't sit well with a lot of Celtic fans, but the way that this has kind of transpired, I think the Celtic fans view this as as close to continuity as you'll get. It's still a lot of the kind of similar kind of style of play, maybe a bit kind of more intense under. But Brendan Rodgers did install that kind of that feel good factor back to Celtic. That to carry that on, I think he is a safe option. I think he's obviously an option that's going to get Celtic fans excited because of the success the first time. It is weird how quickly it's kind of jumped on. Obviously, there's a lot kind of getting kind of mixed in together. You've obviously got Ange going to Tottenham, Brendan Rodgers coming from Leicester. Leicester wanted Enzo Maresca. Celtic wanted Enzo Maresca. Scory. He looks like he's going to Leicester. Chris Davis, Brendan Rodgers' trusted lieutenant, could be going with Ange to Tottenham. John Kennedy looks like he's staying. You've also got Scott Brown coming in the mix. There's just this weird thing going on with all these kind of factors mixed in together. But as it stands right now, this time next week, I think we're looking at Brendan Rodgers as a manager, John Kennedy number 2, potentially kind of Scott Brown there in some capacity. I don't know if that's kind of concrete yet. I think you will still have to obviously get a wee deal in a package with Fleetwood, obviously where he's managing just now. What do we think of that? Obviously, that is a level of continuity. Obviously, with Kennedy there, it seems to be that this is all Desmond, and I think that's the right way to describe that. Dermot Desmond is making this happen. The one thing to me is obviously, like, we'll touch on like transfers later on. Obviously, Celtic are close to signing one player in particular, but Brendan Rodgers hasn't come to Celtic. He's coming to Celtic for more money than he did the first time, if reports are to be believed.
Yep.
He's not coming just to deal with the set of players that have been here before. He's going to get money. He's going to get a transfer kitty. He will want to bring his own players in, make his own mark, and that's going to be expensive.
Yes, yeah, it will be. All the talk's been that he will be Celtic's highest ever paid manager. So yeah, I guess from a Celtic fan's point of view, if you can, have that change of heart, then it's going to be a hugely exciting summer. I know, obviously, Rangers have been making a lot of moves early in the transfer window, but as soon as this announcement's pushed through, I think Rodgers will already have a couple of targets in mind. Obviously, he'll be inheriting an incredibly attack-minded squad, and I don't see him really altering that approach. The style of football that he brought during his first spell was pretty entertaining to watch in itself. So, I think, as you said, Dermot Desmond's had a major say on all of this. The reports this evening is that John Kennedy will be staying, which is a huge boost, I think, for Celtic. Given that he's won over 20 major honours during his time at the club. He's been there a long, long time. There's talk about him eventually branching out into becoming his own manager. But I think that's a really fascinating one, that he has chose to turn down Tottenham, who are a top six club. I think Scott, your guest last week, touched on that as well. Scott Brown's an interesting one. I'm not too sure about that at the moment, whether or not he would be willing to relinquish his position of power as the main man at Fleetwood at the moment to come on board at Celtic, into almost a first team coach role. That'll be an interesting one to see if something can be arranged there. But certainly going forward, exciting times, I think, for Celtic under Brendan.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously one to keep an eye on regarding the Scott Brown situation. But I do expect probably by the end of the weekend, Brendan Rodgers will be announced as the Celtic manager, and it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. It does look like Celtic will have a player to come in after that, and that it's looking like Celtic will sign a midfielder from Norway by the name of Odin Thiago Holm. That deal looks to be all but agreed. A medical was booked in for this weekend, and 2.5 million is the fee reported. Vålerenga is where Thiago Holm plays his football. Decent midfielder. Don't know an awful lot about him. Just kind of seen wee clips and just kind of looked at some kind of scouting reports on him. Seems to be a kind of number 8 type player. The advantage of this is obviously, like, he seems to be a kind of young developing talent. Norwegian, obviously a really good market to get players from. This seems to be a very interesting one regarding the fact that there's no manager, but it does seem to be very much on.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. Extremely highly rated back in Norway. He's been compared to, well, he's not been compared. He's got the similar type of attributes to Martin Odegaard. Harold Bratbach was saying in the press the other day, which is quite a striking comparison to make. Initially, kind of saw some YouTube clips on him, quite box to box. Probably more of a number 8, slightly more attacking than he is a defensive-minded midfielder. But he's been on the radar of numerous top European clubs over the last couple of years. He kind of broke through in the Norwegian league. I think he was 15, 16 years old. There was talks about him going on trial at Manchester United under Jose Mourinho a few years ago. So clearly a really exciting, young, promising player. Whether or not, it's difficult to see how he'll fit into the current Celtic side, given they still technically do not have a manager in place. So whether or not he would be a guaranteed first team starter remains kind of up in the air, I'd say, at this moment in time, but certainly looks a very exciting one for the future. And I think that was epitomised. I think Copenhagen were really keen to sign him in January. They were talking about, was it 2.25 million, I think it was. So he looks like he could be a really shrewd acquisition for Celtic in the long term.
Yeah, I think he could tick a lot of boxes. I think Celtic, if you look at the kind of midfield, I think they are still looking for a kind of missing piece, a kind of number 8. Like, I think Hatate and O'Reilly kind of fit that bill really well, but it's always good to have another option, and it's going to be very interesting to see if bids come in for players. Obviously, when you've got a successful side, I think we're going to see a few resolves being tested in terms of players, but I certainly think that bringing in a player of this calibre, a 22-year-old from Vålerenga, is going to do no harm. The other side of the city, let's get into Rangers. They have announced tonight, just an hour before recording, that they have completed the signing of Sam Lammers from Atalanta. A fee thought to be in the region of £3 million. Very interesting line in the statement from Rangers is that he plays as a number 9, but can also play as a number 10. Speaking to a few people who know the player, I know a little bit about him from kind of watching Dutch football. He's not an out-and-out kind of striker. I don't think we spoke about this all night. I don't think he's going to be a 30-goal-a-season striker, but I think he's going to be a very versatile player on that forward line, and I don't think that'll do any harm, because I think Rangers needed a complete blitz of that forward line, and this is the start of that.
Yeah, I think there's been talk about whether or not he could maybe fill up the number 10 role, maybe just in behind the striker, or whether or not, Beale sees a way of going maybe with a front two. One thing's for sure, Rangers will be in a line up in a different formation, I think, next season. I think that's quite clear based on the signings they've made so far. From what I've seen of Lammers, I think Scott McDermott touched on it last week on your show. He mentioned about how you have to be seriously good to earn the type of big money move he did to Atlanta in the first place. So he seems like a player that I think he spoke in his interview there with Rangers TV about how he kind of felt like he needed a fresh start, a new home, if you like, and perhaps similar to Todd Cantwell, that type of player that just needs a wee bit of confidence, and you'll really see kind of the best of him. Undoubtedly, a top player, but just looks like he needs to find that bit of confidence again. And it's like anything. As soon as strikers score goals, the confidence really starts to flow. So it'll be interesting. I think the first couple of months we'll really find out a lot about Lammers.
Yeah, I think we will as well. Interesting line as well regarding the potential move of Jonathan Panzo. Fabrizio Romano put on when he was announcing Lammers signing to Rangers, it says, talks continue over Jonathan Panzo deal as many clubs want him / Rangers are insisting. I take that as, I think the Michael Beale factor here could be a big play. Obviously, Michael Beale worked with the defender when he was at Chelsea, and I think Rangers could be kind of in the front, the kind of pole position for that signing due to that. I think the personal relationship will be interesting. I can see that one potentially kind of gathering pace over the weekend, not kind of taking like much of an official line on that, but I can see that deal being potentially one that Michael Beale makes a priority in the next few days.
Yeah. I don't think it's imminent at this moment in time.
No.
I think Cifuentes and Dessers are a lot closer to being completed as things stand. I think Panzo and Josh Maja has been the other name that's been talked about recently. I think those ones could rumble on a wee bit longer. But yes, certainly all the type of attributes he'd be looking for from a big kind of physical central defender. Left-sided, I'm correct in thinking. Yeah. So he can obviously bring that bit of balance as well, which is something perhaps Rangers lacked in a wee bit last season from the occasions that I certainly watched them. So yeah, and I think for this stage in Panzo's career, he needs a regular run of first team football, and I can't see him getting that at Nottingham Forest. So he'll definitely be on the move. And as you said, he already knows Beale closely from his time at Chelsea. So certainly a man in demand as things stand. But I agree with you, Scott. I think Rangers have the edge on this one at the moment.
Yep, and you said obviously Cifuentes and Dessers. I would say Dessers probably the closer one out of the two. The Cifuentes one's dragging on a wee bit. He's away in international duty. still see it happening. But I would say right now, if you were to say who's the next announcement, it would probably be Cyril and Dessers, I think.
Yeah, exciting one actually. I'm quite excited to see what this guy can really bring to Rangers. I was having a look at his goals tally when he was in Holland. Seriously impressive reading. Over his time there. I know he was at a couple of the lower league clubs in the Eredivisie, but really did well there. And again, similar to Lammers, it's just a case of maybe had a slightly off the boil this season. I think you touched on it, was it 6 in 36 games last season. So yeah, I think moving to the Scottish League, you'll be getting a lot more chances in front of goal as well. And I think he's one that excites me. I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on.
Yep. One player who could potentially not be coming to Ibrox in the summer is Malik Tillman. There is chat, obviously. I think it's well known that Rangers do have an option to buy for about £5 million, but Bayern Munich, there's a report going about that Bayern see the value being way more if they sold to a Premier League club. I think there's talk of Brighton and Brentford and ties like that being interested in him. I think that's a very interesting one. Obviously, if you sign up for £5 million, if Rangers do take up that option and everything can get agreed, I think you're only going to make profit on him because of his pedigree, and he did do well in his loan spell. The other side of that though is, can Rangers afford to spend that kind of money right now in what we can class as a project player? Because I think we saw enough of Malik Tillman to say yes, there's a lot of talent there, but Rangers need to win now. Rangers need to use this kind of summer as a way to build for next season. Is Malik Tillman a key part of that going forward? I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too sure. If you combine Lammers, Dessers and Cifuentes, that's over, that'd be around the £12 million mark, I'd presume, on those three, and then another 5. I'm not personally convinced that Tillman deep down really wants to come back to Rangers, in all honesty. I just don't get that feeling. Even there was a lot made about his performances, particularly in the Old Firm games last season, where he was kind of found wanting. Barring that, he was really good against any of the other teams in the division, but he looked really off the boil on even in the big Champions League nights, for example, last year. And I'm just not convinced that he really wants to come back to Rangers. So I personally, if I was Michael B, I don't think I would be splashing out £5 million on him at this moment in time.
Yeah, two Rangers outgoings that have found clubs. Ryan Kent has joined Fenerbahce, and tonight it was announced that Scott Arfield has moved to MLS side Charlotte. Kent first. I kind of thought there was chat he was going to Turkey kind of for the past month or so, but if you'd said to me when he was, even last season when he was playing the way he did in Europe, if you'd said to me his next club would be a side in Turkey, I'd have been very surprised.
Yeah, I think obviously there was lots of chat at the time about Leeds and Burnley being the kind of two English clubs really going at it, and he kind of thought that Kent would really fancy cutting it in the Premier League, prove a couple of people wrong, I guess, given that he's already played there. But I guess he just views Fenerbahce as a real kind of fresh challenge to go out there and make a real kind of name for himself. The one thing I did find interesting, I noticed that Fenerbahce had posted just after his signing that the manager had actually left. So I'm not too sure if they've obviously got someone else lined up, but it seemed a bit bizarre to me, given that they just won the Turkish Cup at the weekend there. But yeah, I thought Kent would have favoured a move back to England, in all honesty. So, I still go back to, and I just can't get over the fact that Rangers allowed Kent and Morelos to leave for nothing. I just, given what they would have been worth a couple of years ago, I thought that was criminal to let them both leave on a free.
Yeah, totally agree. And I've probably spent months ranting about that myself. Scott Arfield, though, I think it's a really good move for him. Obviously, getting to kind of get to the end. I thought you maybe see him go to a club in Scotland, but I think going to the MLS, setting up in Charlotte could be a great chance for him.
Yeah, and there's been talk as well that he might get a bit more involved in the coaching side of things as well. I think there was talk about potentially that player coach role in the long term. So yeah, a great move from. I couldn't see him moving to Hearts were rumoured.
Nah.
I couldn't see him going back to Falkirk in League One. I wasn't convinced. I always kind of thought abroad would be his best option. And best of luck to him. I think at this stage of his career, he'll go out there. I can imagine that the lifestyle will be quite a good way to kind of end your playing career. And who knows, in a couple of years' time, you might see him back involved in the Scottish team, in a coaching role.
Yep, absolutely. We'll move into other teams in the Premiership. We'll start with the big news today. I think a massive coup for Aberdeen. They have confirmed the permanent signing of Leighton Clarkson from Liverpool, 4-year deal. I think this is a very shrewd, very key piece of business for Aberdeen. Brilliant signing, I think.
I think it could be one of the best signings made in Scottish football this summer. Outstanding talent. That was evident from the moment he arrived. Technically really good. Great eye for a goal as well, and pivotal in the latter stages of the season in terms of Aberdeen securing that third place in European football. So to get him back, there was talk about whether or not, given the length of deal as well, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. There's chats that he might be returning just on loan again, but seriously good business from Aberdeen so far in this window. Yeah, you touched on it last week, Nicky Devlin as well. Terrific signing. I think they're looking best of the rest on paper at this moment in time. I think it's really early to be saying that. Can't fault the business Barry Robson's done so far.
No, you certainly can't. Two really good bits of business, bringing in Nicky Devlin and also Leighton Clarkson as well. Nothing really going on at Hearts. Hibs, probably the only kind of important business is the departure of Marijan Kabraja's return to Croatia with Rijeka. This can obviously there was personal factors going on with him. I've been kind of very disappointed in how this has turned out. I thought Kabraja was a really good player, just obviously hasn't worked out.
Yeah, he's a regular starter during the first half of the season, obviously, and then had the personal family issues. I think it was over was it the festive period, right in thinking, and just couldn't get back in. I must say, it does say a lot for Lewis Stevenson. I think that must be about 15, 16 fullbacks. He's managed to fend off during his time there, so fair play to him. But yeah, undoubtedly, there was a really good player in there. Going to a club like Rijeka in Croatia, they're probably one of the bigger clubs in Croatia, so a good bit of business for them. But a shame things didn't work out. I think Lee Johnson spoke about how it was best for both parties to move on. It's a shame because I thought he was a good player. Yeah.
Hibs look close to bringing back defender Will Fish on another season-long loan from Man United. And again, played 21 games last season. I thought he was probably one of the most impressive players in the Hibs side last year.
Yeah, made a real good impact because Hibs recruitment hasn't been great of late at all. It's been really, really bang average. And a player I knew a wee bit about prior to arriving. I think he'd had a couple of loan spells in around the English lower leagues prior to that. But yeah, made a big impact, helped kind of solidify the defensive back line. So he would be a decent signing for Hibs. I can't help but feel though that they could really do with one or two just statement signings. I don't think, especially on the back of losing Kevin Nisbet, going out there splashing the cash that they've recouped from Nisbet on a real quality number 9 is what I want to see Hibs do.
Yes, absolutely. A team that will probably need another new number 9 is Motherwell. They look close to losing Kevin Van Veen. Obviously, their top goal scorer last season, one of the top players in the league last year. Looks set to be returning to Holland with Groningen for a fee of around 500,000 plus add-ons. The Dutch side are hopeful of concluding the deal next week. 500 grand for a player that scored 20 plus goals. They've sold them really short, I think. And I know obviously it's a lot of money for a Scottish club, but they could have got way more than 500 grand.
Yes, yeah, I think That's really criminal from Motherwell perspective. Given the comments that Stuart Kettlewell made at the end of the season as well about how it takes serious money to kind of prize him away from Lanarkshire. I'm really disappointed actually. I know, some people might look at his age and say, well, he's over 30. It's clearly a purple patch in his career. Fair play, but I think he could easily be worth 1.5 maybe tops. Given the exploits this season, he single-handedly kept Motherwell in the league, in my view. To let him go for that, undoubtedly, I think he'll go. Am I right in thinking Groningen are back in the second tier now, the Dutch division?
Possibly, I think you're right.
So that's a slight surprise to me as well. But disappointed. I think Motherwell should be holding out for a lot more than that.
Yeah, relegated for Eredivisie, so shows you 500 grand. It's very surprising that's coming from them. Max Johnson, I think that's a player who's probably on the way out. A lot of clubs in the running for him. There's talk of likes of Luton, newly promoted Luton, Bournemouth, Burnley, even Sporting Lisbon looking for him as well. He's out of contract. He's going, and he's one for the future. Yeah,
very much so. Looks a real promising young player, and best of luck to him down south. Let's hope that he isn't one of the these up and coming Scottish talents that flop down in England. He needs that kind of sustained run of games, and fingers crossed he gets it wherever he decides to go. He's been involved in the Scotland youth setup as well at national level for a good number of years now as well, and certainly looks like he'll make that step up to the senior team hopefully in the coming years. So best of luck to Max wherever he ends up.
Yep, absolutely. A couple of bits of gossip. Hibs are interested in Jamie McGrath from relegated Dundee United, and it looks like Matt Kennedy could be reuniting with Denny McInnes at Kilmarnock after leaving Aberdeen. Championship, League One, League Two, not a lot happened in the past few days, very quiet. I think we could see a lot of business taking place at the weekend, nothing really major kind of happening. Clyde have signed a couple of players, nothing major catching my eye.
No, it's I know Dundee have been doing a couple of contract renewals and things like that, trying to get majority of their title winning squad kind of re-signed at this moment in time. It has been slightly quiet on the championship front. I know Hamilton Accies, who've obviously been relegated to League One, have made a couple of signings. I think Lee Kilday's in the door, who is at the start of his career there. So I think that's a decent move for them. I think they'll need to really get some experienced bodies in if they really want to mount a title challenge next year. I think they were over reliant on youth last season, didn't have enough leaders in that squad, and ultimately found out in the playoffs at the end of the season. So as you said, Scott, it's been fairly quiet in the lower leagues at the moment.
On to the Lowland League, Tranent have made a couple of impressive signings for Bowness United, Alison Jones and Lennon Walker. I think two really good bits of business. I think the Lowland League will get into the kind of overall Lowland League in a couple of minutes, but I think Tranent aren't messing about. Two big signings.
Yeah, very much so. They've already made a couple of statement signings, and Alison Jones in particular, really impressive last season at Bowness. Albeit Bowness kind of maybe underperformed a wee bit. I know they got to the cup final at the end of the season, but those two players in particular were kind of real standout performers for them during the second half of the season. I previously knew Alison from his time at Haddington, decent young player. I think I might think he was involved in the Dundee United youth set up a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think he was.
Possibly. So I think there certainly seem to be splashing the cash. They'll have been disappointed, Tranent, I think, not to have really mounted that sustained title challenge last season, and they're certainly going all out to do so this season.
Yep, and obviously they reunite with Max Christie, who was the role manager at Bowness, who's took the Tranent job this summer. In the West, Clydebank have signed goalkeeper Kieran Hughes from St Cadoc's, Darvel, Ross Barber, Stephen Bronski, and obviously joining Ali Small. Good bits of business in the West. Obviously, I think there's going to be about 10 or 11 sides in the West competing for the title.
Yeah, it's Yeah, crazy times. I think there's quite a few clubs in the West at this moment in time seem to be splashing a bit of cash. It's going to be it's going to be really interesting. I know Johnston Borough in particular have been making some real statement signings as well. But yeah, I think a lot of exciting movement at this moment in time. It's been hard to keep across it all, in all honesty, so far, because there has been that many comings and goings. But yeah, I think it's really exciting at the moment. It's going to be really tough to call a league winner this season. I think it's kind of going to be a lot more of a level playing field, given that Darvel are going to be losing a couple of, well, have lost a couple of key players already, and maybe not. It's hard to say at this stage, but maybe not bringing in the quality, perhaps of last year. It'll be interesting, obviously, with Mick Kennedy going to East Kilbride to because I think there's another 2 or 3 players from Darvel that will be heading in that direction relatively soon.
Yeah, there very well could be. It's obviously going to be very interesting regarding that. Kind of done in the transfer front, nothing really else to kind of catch your eye in terms of transfers. One big bit of news, I know that's a transfer show, but we're keeping up to date with all the big events in Scottish football. And Rangers B have announced they're withdrawing from the Lowland League. This is obviously a bit of a weird one. Not surprising if you kind of know what's going on behind the scenes, but it seems to be all kind of the Conference League has definitely been shut down, and Rangers B have announced they will not be participating in the Lowland League. There seems to be another kind of chat of another proposal in the pipeline. I don't know enough about it to say what it is, but it's really, really weird how this is turning out.
Yeah, it is, and obviously the news tonight is that Celtic are now considering their future in the league as well. So
staying in though, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, they made the point that they felt the kind of a lot of good value for the young players last season, competing against good established teams at that level. So yeah, fair play to them. But yeah, the Rangers thing, I thought was a bit of a shambles in the first place that they were allowed to enter into the pyramid at that level in the first place. We're a big advocate, the two of us, for we know the amount of ambitious up and coming teams that are in the East and the West divisions in particular, and I felt denying those teams that opportunity to get promotion in the first place was a bit of a shambles, and obviously this come Rangers jump ship at the first opportunity, on the back of a bit of frustration that the Conference League, which they've been a big advocate for, has totally fallen through. And yeah, I think a couple of interesting points in the statement that they made was that they'd had positive discussions still with the Scottish FA about having some kind of professional league set up for the young development players. There's talk about that they will still be involved in the SPFL Trust Trophy and possibly the UEFA Youth League next season. But is that going to be enough games for these boys to be competing against some of the top teams in Europe? I'm not convinced.
No, and I think that's the thing. Like the one kind of strong opponent, opposition I had to the Conference League was I haven't seen enough of a success story in terms of the whole reason of the B teams being put in was to improve these players and bring them into the first team. Has there been a player from any of the B teams? Is there a sustainable run in one of the 3 first teams? I can't think. Leon King, but I don't think that was down to Leon King get into the Rangers team because there was injury problems. I don't think it was because of the way he performed in the B team, and that's no disrespect to Leon King. Leon King didn't get in the first team on merit. He got in because he was an only option. Now we could still get in, but there's not enough of success for this B team thing to say, right, let's completely scrap the pyramid system, relegate all these clubs. It was never ever going to get voted through. Now the mistake the SFA made, and this is me going on a bit of a rant here, I know we're a transfer show, but the mistake the SFA made was not going through with the vote.
Yep.
That was a mistake. That was an absolute mistake. They should have let the vote go through. If it was 1 vote to 200, then just let that be. Shows you how. But they elected to just get rid of it altogether without saying. Do you know what I mean? These clubs need a voice. Yeah. That was the problem. If you do this again, if you put through another proposal or suggest, right, we're going to have a we're going to have them start at the fourth division or whatever it is. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but if they start at the West fourth division and work their way up, yeah, they could do that. They probably should have done that to begin with. But I'm a very, very strong proponent of the reserve league. So I would keep the reserve league the way it is and bring these three teams in.
100% agree with you, Scott. I think it was good to see that kind of unity within Scottish football across the board, something that we maybe haven't seen in quite a long time as well. So it was good to kind of see clubs stand up and voice their opinion. You know, it was across the board, wasn't it? They were all saying no to it, and it was a bit of a shambolic proposal in my view. I didn't understand how it was going to benefit any of these clubs in the long run, really. And you know, the other thing that's interesting, Rangers made a point of stating that they'd had 8 or 9 academy players step up to the first team last season. That was purely because of Rangers' injury crisis.
And the fact that a lot of those, if you look at the guys that played, it was end of the season games. I remember a game against Hearts at the end of the season last year where every single player that came on had not played before that. And it was because it was a nothing game, and that's no. And I know there's a lot of these players that are good players. And I mean, I look at somebody like a Bailey Rice, like a Joey Dawson, for example, at Celtic. These are guys with a strong future who are probably going to have good experience going up against these. But they could have got that going on loan.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's not like that. This B team has been an absolute success. It hasn't.
No.
And
this
to rip apart your pyramid system for it, I just think is a mockery, to be honest. And I commend the clubs. I commend like campaigns like the No to B teams and a lot of kind of club kind of secretaries and things like that who spoke up against it, and they had to. And what I think you saw from Rangers is that statement is throwing the dummies out the pram a wee bit because you haven't got your way. Now that instead, could Rangers have used like a feeder? I know Rangers tried that a few years ago with Gala. Like they could have tried something like that. Potentially loan a full team to Gala, something like that. They can't. This can't be. There can't be another proposal that's going to get the same reaction. I'm actually surprised it's been kicked in the gas altogether. I thought if they really wanted it, it could have been put through without a vote. Now I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does, I think we need to have a strong look at the people running the SFA, because I think this has been an exact reason of we need to look at the structure. We need to look at the people running the structure. We need to see if there's a way to make the leagues better, because I've been a strong advocate. I don't want to be a fan of a team in League Two and playing a team 4 times a season. You can do that in the Premier League, obviously, because you don't have a choice because you're marketing these 4 Old Firm games. But like Championship, League One, you could have 18 teams, bring a few other teams up, have automatic promotion from the Lowland and Highland League, because I find it ridiculous how you can win a title and have to play another playoff to go up. That needs sorted as well. You can win a league and not go up because you don't have floodlights. That needs addressed as well. There's so much going on that needs addressed before we look at something like this.
And unfortunately, it'll take years as well for it to happen, which is the really disappointing aspect. It's quite clear on the face of it that changes need to be made. However, I think you've been talking like this for 2-3 years now. It's been that way that the powers that be need to be removed from the positions that you could almost hear the pain in Ian Maxwell's voice when he spoke to the press the other week about their decision to withdraw the Conference League. And obviously because he was one of the driving forces behind this proposal, and I think just being led up the garden path, in all honesty, I don't think it was going to be a positive thing at all. And the other thing I go back to, Celtic and Rangers notoriously have failed to produce many young academy prospects in recent years. And last season in particular, when Rangers had a striking crisis, they were all calling, give Zach Lovelace a chance, get him in the team. He's scoring goals in the Lowland League for fun. He's been doing it in the youth league, get him involved. And never once did Beale kind of look at him and go, yeah, I'm going to give you a run. And he had opportunities to do so. And that to me is just why a reserve league is, better served, in all honesty. I think, these boys, not only will they be getting kind of that regular weekly action. You know, I'm right in thinking if it was a reserve league, they would still have an opportunity to go out on loan as well. So that to me would be a much better solution. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen.
You know, the thing I don't get about it, right, and this is, we'll kind of wrap up kind of just after this. I just want to make this one point, and you've touched on something very interesting there about kind of that Zach Lovelace thing, right? Zach Lovelace could score 30 goals in the Lowland League. Think of a step up. Like, I know, and I mean this in the nicest possible way to players in the Lowland League, for example. There's a massive difference from playing teams like Gretna, Cowdenbeath, to playing Motherwell, Hibs, Hearts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How's that? You can't have that kind of step up. Players need to be getting out on loan. I always go back to a story from somebody who was at Kilmarnock when they were a YTS, and they made a really interesting point that makes me think, why did we not have a good reserve league? They played Celtic at Auchincruive, 2000, I think it was. If you were a first team player and you were on the bench and didn't get on, you played in the reserve game on Monday night. Celtic had a lineup that night because of team players that didn't get in: Paul Lambert, Lubomir Moravcik, Johan Mialbi, Ayo Berkovic.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be experienced like that. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to get that playing in a Conference League. You're not going to see Kamar Roof, Ryan Jack, just off the top of my head. Kyogo, for example. Kyogo gets injured. Kyogo comes back in. That's a perfect opportunity for these players to get some fitness. You aren't going to get that in a Conference League.
No.
That's what we need. We need a reserve. The reserve league is slowly beginning to come back into the fore. Make it that way. I don't see why they get rid of that. And that's what we need. We need a proper reserve league. Get this Conference League.
And the thing is, Scott, as well, you know, you can count, it's an endless list of young talent that Rangers and Celtic have allowed to go. You know, very promising when they first break through. The first name kind of springs to mind is a Josh McPake. At Rangers, you know, he's been out on, well, that must be 5 or 6 different loan spells. Clearly the writing is on the wall for him, because he's no nearer the first team than when he first went out on loan, which is hugely disappointing to see. And it remains to be seen what kind of his next move is. And, you know, history tells you that these boys, I don't know, it's a real sense of frustration, because you know when they're going out on maybe their 3rd or 4th loan spell. Kai Kennedy, he's another one, that they just don't seem like they're getting any closer to making that breakthrough.
The 3 best players I've seen at youth level in the past 5 years in Scottish football were Billy Gilmer, who went from Rangers to Chelsea before he even get anywhere near the reserve team. Liam Morrison and Barry Hepburn at Celtic, who both went to Bayern Munich. They left when they were about 16, 17. That to me is not anybody at Rangers and Celtic going, right, we can use the Conference League to build these guys up. They let them go to teams like that now.
Yep.
These guys will get absolutely brilliant education going to sides like that. Yeah, absolutely. But Celtic and Rangers let them go when they were really young. If the Conference League was here, would that have changed things? No, it wouldn't have, because it would have done the same thing. The Conference League isn't going to keep these young players who have the world at their feet.
Yep.
They're going to go regardless. So a Conference League isn't going to change the development. And if I hear one more time from a Rangers fan, Nathan Patterson. Right, Nathan Patterson was a very unique trend. Nathan Patterson got a shot in a Rangers team and thrived. It wasn't the first choice right back. It wasn't like it kept somebody out of the team. You could see his talent. He's went on to do fairly well at Everton. He's made a lot of money for Rangers, but name me another example in the past 10 years where Rangers have made money out of a youth player.
Yeah, no,
that isn't.
I can't remember.
Nathan Patterson was very unique, and that isn't. Rangers have a lot to do in that regard, but we could spend a lot of time talking about this, Lewis. We have probably a show later on in the week because of the Scotland games. I'm going to be very intrigued to see how these Scotland games go. I think a massive game on Saturday against Norway. How do you stop Erling Haaland? Scotland.
Oh, Jack Hendry certainly kept his cards close to his chest the other day, that's for sure. Look, it's going to be incredibly difficult to do so. By all reports, I think he joined up with the Norway squad today, and no sign of a hangover, unfortunately, from his Manchester City title party celebrations. So that's a bit of a blow. it's going to be really difficult. I think Scotland have that fear factor about them now. I think we are at that kind of proposition. Obviously, the result against Spain will have really instilled a lot of confidence in the squad. We've got strikers at this moment in time that are scoring goals, which is on the regular, which has been pleasing. You know, Shanklin back in. We've got Kevin Nisbet back in, which is really encouraging. Keeping it tight at the back is going to be the biggest challenge. We know Haaland is the best striker in the world at the moment. That's undoubtedly the case. And I don't know, the answer to that is going to be really difficult. I think Angus Gunn's going to have a busy night.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But if you take Haaland out of the equation, I think we are more than a match, if not better on paper, than that Norwegian team at this moment in time. And I'm hopeful that if we can certainly claim, I'd be looking at 4 points from these next 2 games, and I'd be delighted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a great result. And we're going to wrap up this latest episode of the Transfer Show. Join us next week for the latest episode, probably maybe Friday. We'll put that out. So, Lewis, thank you very much, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much, Scott. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I'm away for a lie down now before the Brendan Rodgers news breaks over the coming days.
Yeah.
But thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, folks. We'll see you all soon. Cheers.